If you are listening to this, you are part of the experiment. We can't tell you any more, it could skew the data. This is vaguely scientific. The results are inconclusive. Right now, we're pretty sure that I am Derek. Additionally, I am joined by Jim, the scientist. Perhaps you'd like to say hello, Jim?
Hello, Jim.
Permit me to welcome Dak back to the show.
Yo, what's going on, guys?
Excited to be here?
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Delightful. This is Vaguely Scientific, the show where listeners send in questions to hear our vaguely scientific answers, and who knows, we might even get some of those answers right. But first, it's time for the fun science fact of the day, Jim.
Ah, neat. So, cracking your knuckles is probably harmless. The only injuries that have been reported are from people who overextended their joints while doing it, like, really bent their fingers or joints in a direction they really probably shouldn't have.
I watched you typing that in real time right after our pre-recording conversation.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had time to come up with a fun science fact, and I was like, it's topical.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Now, can anybody give us an example of a nice knuckle crack, or are you already spent, Jim?
That's one of the things that I was reading is that you can't do it again after a while because it's like all these compressed gases in your joints, and once you do it, it kind of releases those bubbles, and then they have to reaccumulate. Let me see if I can. Nope.
So what's the recharge rate on a knuckle crack?
I think it varies from person to person because
you gotta get that cool down increase, right?
Well, because my fingers don't crack super often, like it takes an hour or two or something. But I have my one ankle joint, I can just pop constantly. Like snap it.
Just walk down the stairs and it's just going.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, dude, that's real. We're old.
Right.
I remember you having some of the best knuckle cracks in high school, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much the only thing I really remember about you.
That makes sense. I can crack every joint on my hand. Like a lot of people can't crack like the top joint on each finger, but I can.
Wow. Is that a skill you've practiced?
I don't know if practiced is the word I would go with, but
anyway.
I don't know if skill is the word I'd go with. Well, speaking of skills that you have to practice, I suppose, I think we should move on to our first question.
Oh, baby.
Which comes to us from Jonathan. What's the physics or thermodynamics behind beam struggles like those in Dragon Ball?
I'm really glad that he said physics because I'm pretty sure there are none.
So wait, what's a beam struggle? Is this like when the two beams collide and they're doing like the tug of war sort of thing?
I'm guessing,
I think most famously you got the Kamehameha wave.
Right.
And they're clashing, and then there's like this middle part where they're trying to push, the one person's trying to push their beam toward the other person, and they're holding it off. And very common in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but I've also seen this done in like DC Comics with like Superman's heat vision and various other things.
Right.
So I looked at like a kind of a wide range of beams and how they are explained in different fiction.
I think it's really interesting too, and a lot of my knowledge is probably going to hinge on Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and all the other various Dragon Ball permutations. But there are several instances where they're like, the bad guy is like, well, you know what? If I can't beat you, I'm just going to blow up the whole planet. And they fly up into the air and shoot straight down. And then, whoever's underneath is firing back and they're like pushing it back and away and stop them from blowing up the planet.
Right.
And the reason I wanted to bring this all up is because the amount of energy that it takes to destroy a planet, I feel like just the struggle, like the tug of war between these two beams is also going to destroy the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The amount of heat energy alone, I'm telling you.
Well, okay, so that begs the question though, what exactly are these beams? Like do we need to define what those actually are.
Right. I kind of hesitate to use the word energy when I was trying to define a lot of these, because energy is like an actual physics term. And that right there kind of gives us an assumption that may or may not be correct about about what the beams are made of. Because I think a lot of people, their first assumption is it's a laser beam.
Well, isn't that, I suppose, like Superman's is more lasery than other things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like when the way that they're depicted, it looks like a beam of energy or something, and that's what that really could only be a laser or light in some way.
Right.
And so like Superman's heat vision, it is heat. It is a ray of heat. So that's energy, and that's basically a laser. But then you look at something like Cyclops from
I'm so
Marvel.
glad you said Cyclops.
Of course,
he
I'm
opens
gonna
an
bring up
aperture to
Cyclops.
the punch dimension.
Yeah, because his eye beams, his optic blast, is specifically stated to be kinetic force.
Whoa.
Which is closer to, I think, what Dragon Ball is trying to accomplish with the Kamehameha.
Well, I feel like if it was just a laser beam and you tried to, sort of intersect or collide two lasers, I mean, that can they sort of meet in the middle and have that back and forth struggle, or did they just pass through each other?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I agree with you. I think they would just pass through each other. But also in the context of the show, a lot of these things have much more kinetic force than something like a laser would do. A laser is going to cause burns. But it's not, like a laser beam is unlikely to push you very hard.
Sure.
There will be some, but not much.
So I looked at photons. I looked at what happens if you point two lasers directly at each other.
Oh, perfect.
And I also looked at the idea that I think is explained in Dragon Ball and also in Street Fighter. The idea of ki or chi.
Right.
In Street Fighter, Hado, which comes from the Street Fighter move Hadoken, which is often called Fireball by fighting game people.
Oh, yeah.
But in the lore of that game, it's not actually meant to be a fireball. Hado means moving wave or surge, and Ken just means fist or punch. So it's unclear where Hado comes from in the real world, but it essentially means kind of like the idea of a ripple. It could be in like a spiritual context. It could suggest power or influence, and so you're basically having telekinesis of some kind. You're able to influence the world through a ripple.
Well, it's actually funny that you say that, because the first thing I thought of was that you're punching the air so hard that it's creating a shockwave in front of you.
That's kind of what it's supposed to be.
Right, right. Well, I whenever I was kind of thinking about this, I first stopped on lasers, and I was like, nah, that's not it. And I was like, well, what does this even look like? And that led me to the all-powerful fourth state of matter, plasma.
Sure.
Which I think is going to be a closer approximation than, anything else that I could find. And so, plasma, actually, Jim, hit us with what plasma is.
I mean, plasma is not that dissimilar from just a gas, except it is so much hotter that a lot of the electrons sort of dissociate from their atoms, and it becomes a very electrically charged kind of soup.
Right.
The sun is obviously a miasma of incandescent plasma. And so if you want to think about what plasma is, the sun's a really good example.
Sounds like you're writing
Jim
a
spitting
poem.
bars right there.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, that's a They Might Be Giants song. So.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
So, all right. So, like, from what I understand in the 29 minutes of research I was doing, is that plasmas, they can vary in density wildly. They can be, let's say, just as dense as the air, that we breathe, all the way down to as dense as right before a black hole. And so I was thinking, well, okay, if we have two forces that are colliding, we obviously need to have some amount of density that they cannot just sort of pass through each other. And that's what led me to this idea of, well, can you create a plasma beam, and what would that take in the world of Dragon Ball Z to actually do?
Ooh. In the world of Dragon Ball Z, it is heavily inspired by various other shonen-style anime, originally kind of inspired by the Kinnikuman franchise, in which it is very common for the protagonists to have a trait or an ability, you should say, where they can channel their fighting spirit, which perhaps is like willpower. And this allows them to do various things like channel your ki into a concussive wave of Kamehameha. So there's where we kind of break the physics a bit and put it into, as you say, the world of Dragon Ball. Is they are able to manipulate physics just if they try hard enough.
Well, yeah. So there's that idea that maybe they can manipulate the real world physics that we have, and like that's where their magic comes from, is just being able to, let's say, create, like, superheat the air between their hands. Like maybe their hands are just like little microwaves, right?
They're firebenders.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they're firebenders.
Well, I think it's really important to mention that a lot of these different forms of media do rely heavily on the idea that they have some sort of life energy or spirit energy that they are able to channel.
Right.
And we see this in loads of different like shonen anime, but we also see this in a lot of other media that involves fighting in general, whether it's, hand-to-hand fighting. Sometimes you see it in like robots fighting, like G Gundam, which is also anime, to be fair, but like,
sure,
it's a common idea. Actually, Dungeons and Dragons has the idea of like key points for your monk and things like that. So
Green Lantern and
Oh yeah. So this life energy is maybe a source of where all of this power might come from, but the amount of energy in a human body is not really enough to destroy a planet that I know of. I've never tried.
Well, thank God we're not dealing with humans here. We're dealing with Super Saiyans.
We're dealing with Saiyans,
you're right.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, I was like, these are not humans. I mean, dude, like Ken and Ryu.
Well, Krillin's human.
I mean, okay, they're human-ish. They're like human plus, right?
They're human analog.
Yeah, they
might taste delicious. We don't know.
Subscription. Yeah. All right. So what would it take to create a beam? I think that you obviously need to superheat a gas, which we've done that with the microwave hands. That's Goku charging it up.
Problem solved. We got it.
Right. But then I think if you were to just release that plasma, it would simply expand, in the way that like a bomb would go off or really anything. And so the second part of this is forming a beam. And this is where I think it gets a little weird. And the only thing I could really think of is, there are papers on how to actually potentially create, say, like a plasma cannon type of thing. And a lot of these are propelled magnetically, like you would a railgun, right? And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, magnets are just as magic as Goku. And so I'm gonna posit here that these Saiyans and these mystical beings on Dragon Ball Z, part of their key energy is not only superheating something between their hands, but it's possibly maybe even creating magnetic fields that they're able to propel and extend beyond, their hands and sort of direct in a way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense to me because that's exactly what a solar flare is, or like a solar prominence. Because the solar prominences that we see on the sun are these giant arches that basically the plasma is following the magnetic field lines on the surface of the sun.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm thinking, they're using the power of stars, but in their hands,
Well, lend me your strength, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So I like that idea. I like the introduction of the concept of magnets because that's the first thing that I've thought of today, at least. I mean, you brought it up, and it's the first thing that I've become aware of today that could give this push and pull tug of war to the thing. So because because magnets can repel each other, so presumably you could push a magnet against another magnet.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So the two things that I looked at to kind of try and emulate what a beam struggle is accomplishing is, as I mentioned, if they were lasers, how those would interact. And then the other we've talked a bit about, if it was superheated plasma. And you could perhaps make some kind of beam, like you're saying, like a plasma cannon or something. And that's not light, that is matter. It's just superheated. And in that case, if you could make two streams of plasma and they collided, they would create such high pressure between them, it would basically create a plasma shock front. Or an explosion.
Perfect.
I
basically.
mean, and we see that happening in DBZ.
Well, we see that to a certain extent, except that it's controlled in such a way that, like, if two plasma cannons were to shoot each other, what we would expect would be that plasma would then redirect just out in every direction.
Right.
But they continue to push against each other. So I like magnets.
Right. Well, I think that you're right with like the plasma explosion, and I think what I'm envisioning here is almost like these cylindrical magnetic fields that are kind of like collide. Because one other thing that you never really see in DBZ is you don't see somebody just kind of like aiming their beam a little bit to the right. Yeah. It's always hitting both of them straight on. Like, why wouldn't I just be like, you know what, dude? Like, I'm gonna move 4 feet to the right and then just kind of angle my beam and just kind of clip you. And maybe it's because we've got these two magnetic fields that are essentially in like magnetic lock, like a stasis right at that center point, containing all of this energy.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, as soon as you said that, I was like, but we've seen them kind of steering their beams from time to time.
Yeah. Oh,
But when they get close to one another, those beams do seem to impact each other no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's most of the time it's Krillin who, like, somebody will put up a defense and he'll wave his arms and make the beam just turn around. And I guess the idea is to get it to loop around and hit them from behind. But it is still a beam.
Speaking of Krillin, I totally forgot about his Destructo disc, which is also made of energy.
Oh, whoa. All right.
I don't think we have time to get into
that. Dude's throwing frisbees of magnets, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, to me, that actually makes more sense because what you have is a magnetic field with a densely contained plasma. And, I mean, we're hand-waving how it can exist in the first place. And we're hand-waving how he can steer it. But I feel like that makes more sense to me than these giant expanding beams that would need constant containment at a fairly large distance from their source.
Well, I think that like it's not that far of a stretch to just say, you know what, they can superheat things and they can make magnetic fields. So I guess that's where the magic of ki comes from, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize, but the element Ki is actually the element of magnet and magnesis. So that definitely tracks on a scientific, or at least a vaguely scientific level.
Not to be confused with magnesium.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking of. Never mind.
Potassium iodine is key.
I got like
all right,
jars of that at work.
What were you talking about with lasers, Derek?
Okay, so I the very first thing I wanted to know is if you pointed two sources of a laser at, like, directly at each other, so in essence the lasers are colliding, would anything happen? And the answer to that is very anticlimactic. Not really much would happen at all, but the explanation is interesting, and where you can kind of go from there is potentially more interesting. So light is made of photons, which, and watch me butcher all of this, but it's a good thing Jim is here, which have no mass and are not charged. So they don't normally interact with each other. And when photons pass each other, they do something that is called superimpose. And that means that they basically occupy the same space and then pass through each other and keep moving. And so that's similar to if you superimpose an image on top of another, both of those images are there. I'm super oversimplifying the physics on this, but However, at insanely high photon energies, and we're talking about like gamma ray, or things comparable to particle accelerators or powerful plasma lasers, they can cause quantum effects. There's a few that I just picked out the ones that I kind of maybe a little bit understand. So they can briefly turn into virtual electron-positron pairs. And what essentially happens here is they create what is called a photon-photon scattering effect. And so what'll happen is if two photons collide, they can create both a proton and an electron for like a fraction of a second. And then when they reform into a photon, those photons may be going in different directions.
Oh, interesting.
Why is that interesting? Well, let me rephrase because Jim just said literally it's interesting. What does that mean for us? Kind of not a lot that we can realistically do with anything with, but humanity has created matter from light. And not by pointing two laser pointers at each other, but like by using like gamma rays and massive accelerators and stuff. So theoretically, these lasers can have this interaction. However, and this is why I looked at Superman, if we look at two fictional characters who are shooting lasers from their eyes at each other, it is more likely than them colliding and exploding in the middle. It's more likely that both of those lasers are just going to continue going straight and burning the other person's retinas.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense too.
So,
I mean, you don't really get like a lot of density with a laser.
Right.
Yeah.
Zero density, in fact.
Yeah. In fact, no, that's not much.
I was going to say, in a way, I'm glad that you brought up particle accelerators, though, because that was another thing I was thinking about. And because we talked about, these characters having the ability to generate their own magnetic fields, I was thinking about how basically what you do in a particle accelerator is you use a magnetic field to accelerate a particle to almost the speed of light and then smash it into one going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe that's kind of what they're doing is that they're making very low acceleration but very high volume particle accelerators where they are taking the matter around them, accelerating it and like superheating it at the same time. And those are like it's still matter flying towards your enemy, but you are able to accelerate it in much the same way, which I think is a really silly idea. And I love the idea that in between the two beam fronts, it's creating a bunch of exotic particles.
Like, I mean, dude, this really flavors Goku in a very different light for me.
He's a physicist now.
Part microwave, part particle accelerator.
And then he's like finding gluons and hadrons and all these different things in the middle.
Dude, he is the God particle.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why he's Super Saiyan God. Yeah.
There it is. So going back, all right, I feel like out of everything that we've talked about, the most like grounded in reality, as at least as close as we can get it, is probably plasma.
Sure.
And I have I brought one other thing with me for show and tell, and that is a patent filed, I think it was back in 2015 by Boeing, that is a plasma defense shield.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
What? That's really cool.
And I don't know if this exists, but the patent does. And again, I'm going to like butcher the explanation of this, but it is essentially what they're doing is this is to prevent shockwave damage, right? And so a bomb goes off, an IED goes off or something, and instantaneously gases are superheated and sort of like expelled outward from this device. And because because plasma has a certain amount of density or whatever, it is able to essentially absorb the shockwave from like the air, kind of like a sponge would. Now, like actual particles, like pieces of metal or something, might fly through, but this is to prevent shockwave damage on soldiers, because as they basically found out is a soldier can return from war or something and have no apparent physical damage, nothing visible like on their body. But if they got hit with a shockwave, they could have serious internal damage that doesn't even like manifest until like sometimes weeks, months later. And this is kind of an effort to prevent that. So I don't really know what the exact deployable would be, but it is, you know, some sort of apparatus that can, I guess, in some way detect and prevent these shockwaves. But it is specifically a plasma shield. And I thought that was really cool because I think that gives a little bit of validity to the idea of intersecting like physicality into this like plasma kind of thing.
That's so interesting because that is, when you say plasma shield, that's like hard sci-fi.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so wait, the original question is how do they determine like the struggle or something?
Just what's the physics or thermodynamics behind the struggles, and that's as best we could get.
Yeah, I think we hit it, and it's just it's always going to come down to, you know, whoever's the stronger microwave.
You know, who has the most fighting spirit or the higher wattage.
Yeah.
Sorted.
I just think it's very interesting, just as a last thought, that while life energy isn't something that we seem to have in the real world, there's so much media that sort of hinges on life energy.
Ooh,
whether it's, you know, you're shown in animes or your Metroid's eating the life energy or what have you. It's just like everywhere.
It's the narrative tangibility of willpower, and it's because we want the underdogs to win, so they have to win because they have life energy. Like,
yeah. And let me tell you, if I had enough willpower to blow up a planet, I probably wouldn't, because I live on this planet. But I mean, it would be cool.
Pick a different one. Yeah, you know.
That's true. I could just aim for Mars and...
Yeah.
Why not?
I feel like that would cause a lot of ripple effects through the solar system that might be bad for us in the long term.
Nah.
You know, life energy kind of lives in sort of that same zone as like ghosts, where I genuinely don't know if it's real or not real, but I think like there will be a day where we discover something that is like gonna totally flip like everything on its side, right? Like this is a quick one-off, but like Hideo Kojima, I don't know if you read this, he is currently investing a lot of money in ghost detection because he wants to be the first human to actually prove that ghosts exist, which is there like a more Hideo Kojima thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this feels like to me. Like somebody out there is going to be like the first person to like have a little spark of key energy that is a little flash in their hands or something. And I'm looking forward to that day. That's going to be sick.
Yeah.
Well, all it takes is one black goose, right?
All it takes is one tiny palm-sized microwave.
Yeah. Before we move on to our second question, I'd like to take a minute to talk about one of my favorite animals in a segment that I call An Animal That Possibly Exists.
Hooray!
This one doesn't. In fact, this will be the first time I'm featuring a fictional creature in this segment. It's the gargoyle. While gargoyles do exist, they aren't animals. They just look like animals or creatures of some kind anyway. Gargoyles are a facet in medieval architecture, not a faucet, a facet. I'm hilarious. They originally served as decorative waterspouts carved into monstrous shapes to direct rainwater away from the sides of stone buildings.
That is a faucet. Derek.
Yeah, that was the joke. See, I'm clever.
You did it.
While as waterspouts, they are purely practical, their frightening appearances were mostly symbolic. They were said to ward off evil spirits, but it's unlikely anyone actually believed that they did this. It's more of a cultural tradition than a ritual or even a superstition. The most famous tale, and perhaps the origin of gargoyles, comes from the 7th century in France. A dragon named La Gargoule terrorized the city of Rouen. It destroyed fields of crops, dammed the Seine to flood the city, and toppled church towers. Allegedly, builders were so afraid of the dragon that they refused to finish carvings on the cathedral walls. Saint Romanus, or Saint Roman, set out to slay the dragon, and when he tried to gather aid, the people were all too frightened to join him. He ultimately had only one companion willing to help, a criminal who was promised his freedom and his life if the dragon didn't claim them in the fight. The two of those characters managed to kill the dragon, and Saint Roman pardoned the criminal. This began the annual tradition of the Cathedral of Rouen redeeming a criminal from death on Ascension Day, which is a practice that is still done today. In some versions of the legend, La Gargoule was tied to a stake and burned. His gruesome head wouldn't burn, so they hung it to the cathedral wall, and when it rained, water gushed down from the roof into La Gargoule's head and out through its mouth away from the building. This was said to be a miracle, protecting the cathedral. So that's sort of one explanation as to why gargoyles are used as water spouts. Now, there is a distinction between gargoyles and something called a grotesque. Gargoyles function as spouts, while grotesques are purely ornamental statues or busts. Although we pretty much call them all gargoyles now. Gargoyle actually comes from the old French word gargoule, which means throat, because of the water coming through their throat. Grotesque originally comes from the Italian word grotte, which means cave or grotto, and refers to decorative paintings of fantastical combined human, animal, and plant forms found in excavated Roman ruins. So something that is monstrous or bizarre is grotesque or grotesque.
Oh,
that's where that word comes from. In modern culture, gargoyles have appeared as creatures in various pop culture media, most notably in the 1990s Disney animated series Gargoyles, which reimagined them as noble ancient warriors from Scotland who wake at night and turn to stone by day. Those ones are not water spouts.
That you know of.
They've never depicted them as water spouts, I suppose.
Exactly. They never showed it on screen, but we don't know what's going on when the cameras are
Let's
off.
just go stand in the rain.
Disney,
They'll be fine.
Man.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting because my son has a book that's got a bunch of different like mythical monsters in it, and it has a section about the gargoyle.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't know how much of this is true because it sounds made up, but apparently it's all true.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that when I wrote
Not
this
that
up.
it sounded fake or anything, but I was like, this is just a kid's book, and they probably didn't do any research, and they're just trying to do a fun little. But no, I guess it's all accurate and correct in his little book. So,
Did they talk about like San Roman? Is that?
they didn't go into like super specifics, but they talked about like a dragon attacking a town, and they defeated it, and then they talked about it like warding off evil spirits and that sort of thing. And then they also pointed out that when water comes through its throats, it sounds like it's gargling like a gargoyle.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep. That's the onomatopoeic origin of the word there.
That's wild.
So I thought that was very cool. But yeah, I think this is a very fun one.
Nice.
And they're as real as you want them to be, which is to say they're made of rock, but you can't go and
I wanted
have a pet.
I wanted to establish the precedent that I'm allowed to talk about fictional creatures on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
it's right in the title.
Yeah, that was good. Why am I spending so much money on rain gutters when I could just have a couple gargoyles hanging out my house, Oh,
I think that you might spend more money on those.
That's true. Yeah, unless I raise them from, the eggs in which they hatch.
Yeah, if you get them from birth, then they're
right. Exactly,
they're less expensive. It's rescue instead of breed, right?
Perfect.
So I think with that out of the way, we should move on to our second question for the week, which is: you are given a paperclip to hide from a detective. If they don't find it in 7 days, you win. Where do you hide it?
I feel like there need to be more rules here.
I want to start by saying I've seen a few different versions of this. So this is the root of it, but I've seen some where the detective has like a specific objective, and I've seen ones where it's like you have unlimited money. So because I don't know the origin of this silly question, I just took the root of it and figured we could explore whatever our heart desires.
Well, I think the first and most important question is like, do I need to have the paperclip at the end of 7 days? Because if not, I'm flushing it down the toilet. He's not going to find it.
I think the question is, You just can't let them find it, and then you win. What was it? $7 billion, or what did you say?
No, it just says
Something
if
like
they
that,
don't find it in 7 days, but you could get $7 billion. I don't know.
All right, yeah, no, I love that.
It's
That's
bragging
good.
rights, is what it is.
Bragging.
You defeated the detective.
Well,
Take that, Poirot.
Okay, something big has to be on the line here, though, right? Because let's make the assumption that this detective has like unlimited resources.
Sure.
But you have the resources that you have. Is that fair?
I mean, defeating Hercule Poirot is bragging rights. Like, that's a big prize. Like, you're going to be famous.
Yeah, because everybody knows who he is.
It's Agatha Christie's detective.
Oh, right, yeah.
He's the little Belgian guy, and they always call him the little French guy, but he's Belgian, and he gets very upset about this.
All right, Jim.
So let's say you flush it down the toilet. Let's say you flush it down the toilet, Jim. Mm-hmm. And I am a detective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are the resources I have as a detective? Can we just say I have like essentially unlimited resources?
I think that's possible, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I am going to obviously monitor every input output of your house and anything that you interact with.
Makes sense.
I got Goku with his magnet hand sifting for paper clips on every pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna stop your plumbing. I'm gonna get 35 dudes to like go through everything. I'm finding it. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Right.
what? You lose.
So here's my follow-up question and therefore suggestion is
Yeah.
So we talked about, do we need to still have the paperclip? And assuming we don't, does the detective need to acquire the paperclip, or do they need to specifically identify the paperclip? Because if they need to specifically identify a particular paperclip, I might hide it in a massive crate of other paperclips.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that too.
Man, there's so many variables here. Well, okay. The question says the detective has to find the paperclip. So presumably, I don't think they necessarily, like, I don't know how detailed we need to be with identification. If you have a drawer full of paperclips and one of them is the paperclip that you were meant to hide, and he's like, yo, it's in this drawer, I'd say I'd give him the win.
That's fair. That's fair, I think.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I was thinking about is just, again, does it have to be recognizable at the end of 7 days? Because another of my first thoughts was, oh, you melt it down and turn it into something else. You could probably make a thumbtack out of it.
I feel like it probably has to remain in paperclip form. Once it's no longer in the shape of a paperclip, it's not really a paperclip. I don't think you can destroy it.
Yeah, it does say hide a paperclip.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, I mean, then we get into Ship of Theseus arguments, is like, are you hiding the materials it's made of or whatever?
Mm-hmm. I think a good place to hide something that small would be like inside of an appliance. If you sort of tucked it up and inside like the seam of your refrigerator door, then I think it's going to be really hard to find something that small in something else that sort of complex.
That's what every drug dealer says right before they get busted. Like,
but drugs are not as small as a paperclip.
Sometimes they hide them in themselves too. So that's,
right.
Yeah. I was thinking about eating the paperclip, but I feel like that wouldn't really hold for 7 days. So, and it might hurt a lot going through.
Well, keep thinking about eating paper clips, but I think that, I mean, dude, I've seen so many videos of like police doing searches throughout houses, and the amount of things that they're able to find and dig out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah,
I feel like right off the bat, this paperclip cannot be hidden anywhere that you would normally be in your everyday life. If this is a detective who has a team of like 1,400 paid employees that are just there to secretly track your every paperclip move, we have to really get creative. And I mean, I don't, that's as far as I've gotten in the thought experiment. Like,
I think you brought up the main point that I was kind of stuck on is kind of looking at the detective's perspective on it, because let's reverse the thing and say, okay, I'm given 7 days to find a paperclip you have hidden. I'm not saying I'm a master detective or anything, but if I have Sherlock Holmes level intellect, I'm not only looking for hiding places of the paperclip, I'm also reading you and thinking, where would you hide it? Like, what would you think to do? And so that's, you kind of have to get, like you said, get creative. You have to think outside the box. I might even say, try to not think like yourself.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, I feel like burying it is right out. Let's just assume that, they can get high powered magnets, they can dig all around your yard. This is the same reason why burying even small bodies doesn't work, I've heard. And, but if you were trying to get the paperclip somewhere far away, how would you do that without attracting attention? So the thing I really love about this question is it's such a stupid, simple question, but like the more you dive into it, the more you start thinking of like the logistics of like, well, what if I did have to secretly ship something like overseas and not be detected? And now you're kind of like going down all of these different avenues of, well, what would that take?
I think that's kind of an interesting angle, because there are people, like, it's depicted in media a lot, but I'm sure it happens enough. Like, people smuggle stuff into prisons and stuff.
Yeah.
So there are ways to like get stuff out, but this is also stuff that the security guards are not necessarily looking for, and we've established perhaps that the detective is specifically looking for the thing you hid.
Yeah, I mean, this is a paperclip manhunt. $7 billion is on the line. I think that they're going to pull out all the stops.
Now, I wonder what the rules are on like hiding it on your person. Like, if you put it, I don't know, let's say in your underwear and try to leave the house, are they going to like strip search you every time you leave the house to try to find this paperclip?
If I was in charge of this, and Dax already mentioned, like, I'd be watching you. I'd be watching what leaves your house and how and stuff. So if you have it in your pocket, for example, I'm probably going to want to know, like, I'm going to want you to empty your pockets before you go anywhere.
What are the legal avenues that a detective can take in terms of surveillance?
Oh, I guess it depends on a lot of things, like what jurisdiction and stuff. But are we assuming the detective and you have agreed to this? Then I assume they probably have like a warrant to search your premises for the paperclip.
I'd say there's probably, there's probably a set amount of time that they will have, upon like, okay, basically the paperclip is hidden, the deed is done, and now you have 7 days to find it. Maybe something like that. Yeah. Right. And at that point, I think that all bets are off. I think that they are allowed to totally search your premises and maybe even give you a little body cavity. Who knows? Before that point, I think that there is still the reasonable expectation of legal privacy. Like, I don't think that they would legally be able to wiretap your house. Actually, I don't know that if they are allowed to do that, but like they're not going to like set up cameras in your house, and so you do have that amount of safe haven.
Yeah.
But again, I think that we can pretty safely say that if you are hiding a paperclip literally anywhere in your house, in your plumbing, in your yard, after that 7 days, just through the sheer amount of resources, they're going to find it. So how are we gonna get it out of here?
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be a certain amount of lead time that you get, because if you're handed a paperclip and then immediately under surveillance, I feel like there's not really an avenue for you to get it hidden somewhere that they aren't going to find it.
It's hide and seek. They have to count to 100 with their eyes closed.
Well, I mean, Jim, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Is like, can you, under extreme surveillance, can you, do the most minute of actions without being noticed?
Yeah, if the detective specifically knows what they're looking for, that's pretty hard. I want to bring up, because there's another variation to this, is you are given unlimited money to hide this paperclip, and that's a pretty common one. And a few people that I've polled, it's come up enough times that I feel like it's going to be a very common answer. I would hire a spaceship to blast it into space, or something like that. And here's immediately, if I'm a detective paying attention to what you're doing because you're hiding a paperclip, I'm going to notice that you've contracted a spaceship, right?
Well,
That's
and
true.
I think that also brings us back around to the idea that there must be some kind of there must be some amount of lead time that you can have.
Sure.
Because if you're given unlimited money to do whatever to hide this, then if they start watching you immediately, they're like, oh, they bought a boat, so they're going to hide it on the boat, or they're going to, sail away with it. Like they.
Well, yeah, but even if you are given, like, say, a week, 7 days to hide it, and then they have 7 days to find it, like, I'm gonna go back and look for records of what you did that week.
Yeah, but the records won't tell you everything. So, like, you buy a boat and then you sail to Bermuda, and then you walk Bermuda's not a small island, but you walk 2 or 3 miles inland where maybe no one's going to necessarily pay much attention to what you're doing, and then walk back, and you could have hit it anywhere basically in that amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference between, like, having some lead time and then, or they just immediately are like on you within the hour, basically.
Certainly makes it harder.
Yeah, I mean, and then I guess, okay, so let's say that, if they were from the get-go, you're given a paperclip, they're like, we get to surveil you for 7 days, and then we get 7 days to find it. Okay. But during that 7 days, they can only surveil you within the legal reason. So maybe outside of your house. Like, what if would a path to victory potentially just be completely brute forcing it? Like shipping out 30,000 different packages, or having like 200 people stop at your house and then leave, and then each one of those people, one of them goes and buys a boat, another one goes and starts digging holes, another one, contracts NASA for space shuttles, and like, is there maybe just like a threshold where they would not be able to
you just flood the whole thing, and there are too many leads to follow up.
I mean, that makes sense. And here's one that I stumbled across Googling. Somebody suggested put the paperclip in a helium-filled balloon and release the helium-filled balloon so you don't actually know where it goes. And while I think there's problems with that one, if you put that on top of what you just suggested, sending out several packages and contracting all these things, what if in addition to that, you also don't know which one you put the paperclip in?
I think you just really cracked a big part of this code, which is that at the end of the 7 days, you also should not know where that paperclip went.
That makes sense to me.
I think that if you inherently have knowledge of where that paperclip is, that is a strong enough lead that a detective could either deduce or maybe even beat it out of you, Right.
We don't know if they're allowed to interrogate you. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to be double blind.
For some reason, I keep going back to like the dark net, like the deep net or something, where it's like, how do it, like, because, in terms of communication channels, if you were stuck in your house, that is one way to reach the outside world without being detected. And we still have the problem of like physically transporting something, but this does open up the avenue of being able to make whatever arrangements you would possibly want in order to execute this plan. I just don't know what those are.
It's a tricky question to answer because it's so open-ended.
Yeah, and so I agree from the get-go. We were like, there have to be some more stipulations to this, and I think some of it might even depend on who is the detective as well. Like, do you know that, or is it just, here's a paperclip, go hide it, someone's gonna try to find it and you have no idea who it is? that's going to change my strategy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If it was like your brother is going to go try to find this paperclip, like it's going to drastically change how I'm thinking about.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know my brother as
Mhm.
well as like a Sherlock Holmes might be able to read me.
Yeah. And then, like, are you allowed to go about your normal business? Like going to work or going to the store?
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Or do you got to just sit at home for a week?
No, I think you're free to go anywhere. You know,
Yeah,
you're just going to be surveilled.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Well, that kind of harkens back to if you have the paperclip on you. Like, are you allowed, if you don't have the paperclip on you, are you allowed to move the paperclip if they are, like, getting too close? Is that cheating? I don't know.
Oh, I wonder, yeah. One thing I was thinking about, and I don't know, it would depend on how closely I'm being surveilled, but I think it would be very interesting to take the paperclip and put it inside of a 3D print, because you could do this. It's really, really simple. People do this all the time with magnets, where you print out, something that you're printing, and then you stop at a certain layer, and you put the magnet inside of the thing, and then start it up again, and it'll finish, and then seal it up, basically. And I feel like if you printed it inside of something, A, that makes it harder to find, and B, if it's something that you were going to make or use anyway, then you have the plausibility of like, oh yeah, I was going to make this, dresser door handle because my other one broke off or whatever. And it's like, you have an excuse as to why you were 3D printing something.
So what you do is you open an Etsy store where you 3D print little knickknacks and ship them off to people you don't know. And just in one of them that you don't pay attention to, you hide this paperclip. Yeah. And then it's out there in the world.
Is there like some kind of mail, like some kind of certified mail or something that you can utilize that people legally are not allowed to open? Like a detective or something? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
That's the thing, because we don't know what allowances this detective has. Are we treating this like a criminal investigation, in which case they are allowed to open your mail if it's in the line of an investigation? But most of the time, it's a federal offense to open somebody else's mail. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I was thinking, though, you could really get pretty double blind with that. If you print out like 100... Flexi T-Rexes and hide the paperclip in one of them, and then they're all the exact same print, and you just mail them out to people.
Yeah.
Or just leave them in the park.
Yeah, I mean, I think as with all good hypotheticals, it really just comes down to the details of the question. And that's actually kind of the interesting part of the discussion is like, well, there are all these, like, if you have all these stipulations, this then becomes an impossible task. But if you don't have, some of these, then it is a trivially easy task.
Sure.
And the fun part is sort of like, what are the boundaries and the guide rails that we'd have to put in place to make this like kind of a fair fight? And that's maybe that's for another vaguely scientific.
Sure, but that's kind of like game design.
Yeah, exactly.
An interesting topic. Yeah.
You know what? I think I would just take the paperclip and I would hide it in the like jar of Vaseline from like 1981 that everyone has in their cupboard that literally never gets used, never gets opened, and that will be the like quite literally the last place that people look, and then boom, $7 billion richer. I'll buy you both steaks.
Yep. There we go. We all won $7 billion.
I wonder what would happen if you tossed it in like the washing machine. If it would get through the little holes, but then not flushed out the other end.
I thought you were gonna say like if it would just evaporate like some of your socks do. Like, you're always like missing like a sock, and it's like, where did that go? I did put it in here. So maybe,
now that you brought it up,
right? Yeah, it goes to the netherworld.
Yeah, it's gone into the weird missing dimension of socks behind the dryer.
You know what I would do? I don't know if I would get away with this or not, because I don't know how closely I would really be being surveilled. But I got this chip in my wall, and I've been meaning to putty over it and then like paint it. I would just putty it into the wall for a week.
Dude, no one's finding that, Jim.
Cask of Amontillado it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
there are so many places that I definitely could hide it, but if the search is as heavy-handed as it could be, then I don't know that there's anywhere I could really put it where they're not going to search, and B, I don't want them to destroy my stuff.
Well, that's a thing I would use against you if I were investigating.
Yep.
Mhm.
I know Jim's not going to want me to destroy this. He wouldn't put it in there.
Yeah.
I am never going to look at a paperclip the same way ever. I'll tell you that right now.
So we should just all hide paper clips in each other's houses.
But I mean, by the way, like paper clips kind of already carry this property because every time I need a paper clip, it is impossible to find one.
That's fair.
So
That's another angle to the
maybe,
question.
Maybe that is actually the real solution: is give the detective a stack of papers and just be like, "Hey, can you clip these together for me?" He will never be able to find that paper
Never
clip.
be able to
Yeah,
find
It'll
it.
never happen.
So, you know what? I'll give you 7 days, and if you can't clip those papers together, I win.
The shoe is on the other foot now.
That's the solution right there. Yeah, I like the metaphysical answer of paper clips go missing all the time.
Mhm.
All right, listeners, let us know this week, what are the thermodynamics of the paperclip struggle? If you have any thoughts on that or anything else we talked about, you can email us at feedback@vaguelyscientific.com. You can comment on our blog at vaguelyscientific.com. You can like us on Facebook, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Vaguely Scientific. Hey, Jim, where do we get all these wacky questions?
We get them from you, the listener. And if you have a question that needs to be answered in a vaguely scientific manner, you can email us at questions@vaguelyscientific.com. If you want to get our episodes the minute that they're released, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and all the other great places that cool podcasts like to hang out. And subscribing and leaving feedback really helps us out. And so does telling your friends.
And you can tell your friends that if they listen, we might tell them where you hid that paperclip.
Our vaguely musical intro is composed by Anthony Pizzelli, and don't forget to check out our merch store over at vaguelyscientific.threadless.com. Are you thinking about getting gifts for people this holiday season? Well, think about getting them from our store, because they're cool. I like them.
Nice.
Great.
The sponsored Vaguely Scientific evaporating paperclip.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to Dak for coming and hanging out with us.
I have a
today.
thought. Did they ever say
Okay.
what the paperclip has to be made out of? Because if it's
Oh my
gallium...
God, Jim. It's made out of plasma, actually.
Plasma,
Plasma.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense then.
No, thanks for having me. This was a blast. This was a great one, guys.
Awesome. For Vaguely Scientific, I am Derek.
I'm Jim.
And I guess I'm Dak.
This is Vaguely Scientific. Hope everyone had a good time. Everyone can go about their business now. Look for us next time. Perhaps we'll still be here. This is Vaguely Scientific.
Toodaloo, everyone.
Sounds
Why do I keep
good.
doing that?
What did you do?
I clap and then I crack my knuckles very loudly next to the microphone.
Well, in my experience, Jim, you crack your knuckles very loudly pretty much all the time.
Yeah, but I should give myself at like a 30-second buffer at minimum.
Well, live and learn, I suppose. Do you want to do it again?
Nah, dude,
No.
the clap crack is
No,
great.
it's fine.